Are you struggling to keep your workflow efficient? You might be over optimizing. Let's find out how to streamline your workflow the right way. So it's going to be, this video is going to be about workflow efficiency. Workflow efficiency. Because we don't want to work on we don't want to have like a workflow that is inefficient and make it so that it is very optimized, but at the end of the day we end up not using it at all because it doesn't work. This is one of the problems that people are doing. Let me illustrate this. You are working with a workflow, you have like an entire thing that you want to do, a process with multiple steps that you want to be enhanced with like, I don't know, sometimes a script, sometimes of like tool that you are using. And so maybe a large language model. You want to have like this entire thing being done by AI. And the problem with doing that, by doing it that way, like just in one step, is over optimization. In this case, like why is that over optimization? It's because you have a top down approach instead of like a bottom up approach. So this is basically what a top down approach is, right? So this is top down because you have an entire thing that you want to work on, and you work on the entire thing at once. And then the problem that might end up happening is the output, what you want to be done by the tool that you're working on here, is not good enough. And so you go back to actually like making it better, and then it still isn't good enough. And then you're kind of stuck because if you keep doing that, you don't know like how to make it better, kind of. It's either like it's kind of a hit or miss, right? Like you take this entire thing and then you try to get to the result, and it's the problem with that is it's too big to actually work. This is not the way to make something to make a product work. Let me explain how things actually work when you want to work on something specific like this. When you have a process like that, what you want to do is take a single step, work on that, and get the output of this single step. So that means your process here, you want to break it down to multiple steps and work on those steps like separately, right? If you work on those steps separately, then what ends up happening is you have like, let's say, a tool for all of those different steps, and based on like the output of those tools, you can then work on those steps one by one. And that is going to make sure that you're not going to over optimize things, because you keep working on a single step, and if that step doesn't work, then you know something is wrong with this single step, and you can work on this step, right? And so maybe like you can even remove that step, meaning like you forget about, like for now at least, to do it by using some specific tool to do that step. Instead, what you end up doing is you do it by hand. Like you could do it like it could be programmatic, or it could be done manually. And this is something that like is going to work. At least it's going to work. We know it because as long as you know how to do that entire process by hand, then you're good to go. It's a lot more flexible is the point, right? Because if you remove that step here and you do it manually, or this one here, or whatever it is, then you know that all of the steps that are going to be implemented are going to work. And if they don't work, then you keep working on those steps and until they work, and you keep making them better and better and better and better, right? And then the point is, down the line, what you end up doing is you merge steps. But the thing, that's what matters, right? Like you need to merge steps only when they are when you have like iterated on those steps multiple times, and you know that they are rock solid. Basically, when you're doing the process and when you're like manually doing some of those steps, they are the output of the tools that you've built. They work extremely well, and you can use these things without like ever changing them or correcting them, right? this is when you know that you can start merging steps together, and you will have something that you can build upon then, instead of like having something that is done like all at once, and then at the end of it you look at like the results and you look at whether or not they work, and then if you want to keep working on it, then you run the risk of like just breaking everything that was before, right? Because if you are doing a single tool with all of those things that have been worked on like at once, then it's probably going to be just basically it's going to be either, if you rework it, then it's going to break everything just because like everything is intricate, right? Everything is related to the previous thing or the thing afterwards. It's kind of like mixed together. What we want is break things down. This is the number one thing, right? If we want to like if you take out anything from this video, is breaking down steps. This is the number one thing. If you're breaking down steps in terms of like workflow enhancement, and then you work on those steps separately, then you're not going to run into the problem of like it doesn't work, and then you don't know how to move forward, then you get stuck, and then it feels like you keep working on like the same process, but then it doesn't necessarily move the needle forward, because when it's better, sometimes it's better, but then you work on it and then it's going to break another thing that wasn't related to what you were working on, because you're going to sacrifice one part, but you're not going to realize it right now, right? So that's the reason why you want to be able to work on a specific step without like having regressions on the other steps. Basically, that's kind of like the idea here. So that is so there's also another thing to be careful of. If you're going to not break down the task, if you feel like you're not breaking down the tasks enough, this is how you can like identify this, right? Because if you are not breaking down the tasks enough, then here's the problem that you can encounter, right? You are going to oversimplify steps, like the transition from one step to another, or one of the steps, because you want to have a return on your investment. And so the problem is, if you're working on a complete tool that involves all of those things, the only return on your investment you're going to get is when it's done. And so the problem is, if those things are done like if everything is done at once, then you're gonna waste some of your time by just doing all of this at once, right? Because the return on your investment is not going to be it's not going to be good enough, basically, because you're gonna have to go back to all of those steps here, and yeah, they're going to be simplified, and they're not going to be as good as if you had really worked on them separately. Because the thing is, you are going to simplify things without even realizing you're simplifying things. So that's the number one problem. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you want to be part of my contacts, click on the link in the description. And if I want to share something with you, I'll send you an email. And thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.